Hi, my name is Jessica Clark. I'm the Director of Research and Strategy at Media Impact Funders. We're a member-supported network of funders who support media and technology in the public interest. Welcome to the latest broadcast in our Documenting Impact series, where we focus on powerful films and projects selected for our annual Media Impact Festival. The festival, which you can explore at mediaimpactfunders.org under the Events tab, celebrates the impact of media. Our 2016 selections, which we recognized at our annual Media Impact Forum last June, spanned a range of interactive techniques, including participatory reporting, physical installations, and personalized digital experiences. Today, we'll be talking with the producers of 2 of our 5 2016 festival selections, Across the Line and Do Not Track. We'll hear from Molly Eagan, executive producer of Across the Line, which explores abortion in America, and Margaux Missika, producer of Do Not Track, which attempts to show users the myriad issues related to digital privacy. I'll talk with Molly and Margaux, we'll demo the projects, and then we'll engage in a live chat with all of you. We encourage you to ask questions to our panelists who are all in the live chat right now, answer poll questions, and offer your comments. You can also use the emoticons at the bottom of the screen to indicate how you feel about what you're seeing and hearing at any point in our conversation. Let's begin. Hi, Molly, thanks for being with us today. We're glad you could join us. You're an executive producer of Across the Line. Just to frame the project for our participants, it's an immersive virtual reality experience that puts the audience on the scene as anti-abortion extremists try to intimidate patients who are seeking sexual and reproductive health care. The project uses documentary 360-degree video footage and CGI, paired with a montage of real audio recording of actual protesters. This gives viewers an intimate view of the harassment outside and the compassion inside health centers across the country. This is a powerful hybrid documentary fiction depiction of the gauntlet that many abortion providers, health center staff, and patients must walk on a typical day in America. So first, can you tell us a little bit about the impetus for creating this project?
Sure, Jessica, thanks so much. So really several things came together around the creation of this project, to your question. I think first and foremost, Planned Parenthood works in partnership with many external organizations in the reproductive health rights and justice space to raise the story of the impact of abortion stigma in this country. And so we're always looking for ways to tell what the real story is of women and their loved ones and staff who experience abortion. I mean, the other piece is sort of about a little bit about fate. So 2 real giants in the immersive creative space came to us separately to asking Planned Parenthood and reflecting that immersive technology and virtual reality may be an impactful medium to tell stories related to our work. And so Nani de la Peña, who's done so much work in immersive journalism space, in computer-generated imagery, another pair, Brad Lichtenstein and Jeff Fitzsimmons from Custom Reality Services, who work more in the 360 space, came to us quite separately, not knowing one another, about wanting to work with us. And we gathered both kind of artist groups together and landed on the need to tell the story of what it's really like in front of some health centers, walking through that toxic environment of protesters. And the third piece really has to do with our, exploration that the person on the street, the person in the general public, when asked about protest in front of health centers, would reflect that maybe these are peaceful scenes of older women who are praying. That's what you heard when you asked people what they thought of was going on in front of health centers, and we felt that there was a disconnect. The reality at some health centers is that this is anti-abortion folks that are intimidating and harassing individual patients, their loved ones, the staff who work at the health centers. And you'll see later from the film See and Hear that it's pure bullying. It's individualized attacks on folks as they're trying to access healthcare. So for all of those reasons, we were compelled to and really honored to work on this piece.
Great. So we're going to watch the 7-minute film to understand the experience. For the full experience, you'd be watching it through a Google Cardboard or a Vive or a Gear. So you won't get the full impact, but you'll get a sense of the content.
Come in.
Christina?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Dr. Reagan. How are you?
Okay.
Alrighty. I was just looking over your chart, making sure everything's in order.
Okay.
Just had a couple questions for you, and then
Yeah.
I want to make sure that you have your questions answered before we get started.
Sure.
Okay? Do you have any medical problems?
No.
No? Okay. Any allergies to medications?
No.
No? Okay. And what questions do you have for me? You okay?
No.
No? What's
No.
going on? Are you unsure of your decision or nervous about the procedure, or?
No, it was just those people out there.
The protesters?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
May I?
Sure.
I'm so sorry that you had to go through that today.
Thank
Not what you need on a day like this.
No, it's not. It's really not.
Do you have someone here to support you through this process? Someone you can talk to afterwards?
Yeah, I do.
Good.
I do.
That helps.
Mm-hmm.
That helps. I'm so sorry. Well, we're here for you. If there's anything I can do to help you, please let me know.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. I wonder if does he know where to go?
Hi, you guys okay?
Yeah, we're wondering if you know where we should go for the clinic.
You're here to pray at the abortion clinic, or you're here to go to the abortion clinic?
I'm just not sure which building it is.
Excuse me?
I'm not sure which building it is.
The abortion clinic?
The healthcare clinic.
It's an abortion clinic, man. They'll do 20 to 30 abortions here today. Look, there's a place that's very safe down the street called Waterleaf. Please let me take you there. Please.
I can't.
Please. Look, I know you're struggling with something, all right? But I don't want to see you get hurt. I've been doing this for 8 years. I've been counseling out here for 8 years, and I see women go in that are struggling with it just like you are. And they come out 2 hours later, and many of them are hurt and broken.
Broken?
I don't know what your situation is, but there's a more dignifying choice for you as a woman and as a mother.
Her choices that she's making is very dignified, and her counseling that she needs is not from you.
We're going to pray for you, okay? You can come out here.
That is the worst thing to have to see right now.
You're a whore! You're a whore! You're a whore! You're a little whore! How about stop being a whore? You
Come on,
whore!
I'll stay
Shame
with
on
you.
you! Start closing your legs! Start having some respect for your body! Maybe your parents should have aborted you!
Devil's got an army too. When a woman is raped by a man and she conceives, that is God trying to give her a treasure out of darkness, a child that can be there when she's crying over this pain to wipe her tears and say, Mommy, I'm here for you,
You need to
and I
turn
love
from your
you.
sin. That's what the Bible says repentance is, to turn from your sin. You know there's a God. He is full of mercy, but he's also full of wrath, and he hates sin. He hates this sin, the sin of shedding innocent blood. The fact that God has granted you another heartbeat shows his great mercy.
You're a wicked woman, you know that? You're a wicked woman. What do you think you're doing here? What do you think you're doing here? You're a wicked woman.
What would your grandmother say? I can't believe my granddaughter standing up for baby killers. She turned over in her grave. If your grandmother was here, she'd put a bag over her head so nobody would know that you were her granddaughter.
Young lady, the hoodie cannot hide you from your guilt. You cannot hide from God today. God sees you already as a murderer at heart for even coming here.
Doesn't anybody care about the right of the child? Doesn't your child have rights? How can you say protect the rights of the mom if you're not willing to protect the rights of the child?
Shame on you. That you would just walk in here with a smile, right, into a murder clinic. Shame on you. God's going to destroy you in the lake of fire, and you won't be smiling then. You're going to be weeping, wailing, and gnashing your teeth. Shame on you, you wicked, pathetic woman. Wicked Jezebel feminist. Yeah, you shouldn't have been a whore. You shouldn't have been sleeping with every guy at the club. You wicked Jezebel.
Great, that was fascinating and a little disturbing. Let's talk about this issue a bit. Where are we now in America around the state of abortion access? What trends are you seeing under this administration?
Well, you know, we have to raise the real disconnect here, I think, which is that 1 in 3 women by the age of 45 has had at least one abortion. That really means that either you yourself or somebody that you know, and most likely somebody that you love, has had an abortion. But because of the stigma and shame people walk around with, they're not telling their stories, they're not reflecting on what's happened. And so put that in light of an incredibly restrictive environment. In the last number of years, more than 300 abortion restrictions have been passed. It chills me to think that more than half of women of reproductive age are living in an environment with some kind of abortion restriction. And that's, you know, completely unacceptable. And, you know, certainly recently we've seen the passage of a bill that is really the most restrictive women's health bill in a generation, cutting all kinds of access to services. And so it's that disconnect between the incredible, sort of the common 1 in 3, somebody you know and loved has had an abortion, with the passage of these restrictions that are politically motivated and not based in the provision of health care.
So you launched Across the Line in January 2016. Can you give us a sense of how the project has been received by viewers, where it's been screened, and who you're trying to reach, and what happened when you reached them?
What a journey. What a journey for us and our creative partners. So in the beginning, we were at film festivals that had spaces that were featuring a lot of different virtual reality narratives. They had the HTC Vive that you mentioned before, which gives the viewer a full walk around ability. You are with a headgear. For those of you who haven't been in a Vive, you're immersed in a headgear and you're able to physically walk around. You are walking through protesters, so to speak. So initially it was those kinds of venues, and we continue to be there. But we recognized that there were so many other requests and needs that we were able to make the film available, as you mentioned before, on Google Cardboard, so that we could send Google Cardboards out to community-based organizations, our affiliates, folks that are interested in using it with their local law enforcement for training about what really happens out there. So many different uses that were made possible by the Google Cardboard and the more kind of a flexible Gear VR. So we've been to many college campuses, state houses, community events, and the reception is often, I didn't know it was that bad, often incredible emotion. VR, you know, it's sort of typical to talk about VR as an empathy magnifier or amplifier. And when you layer on the story of Across the Line, people are very emotional when they see the piece, and often asking kind of what more can we do to help.
So you worked closely with some of the funders around this engagement strategy. Could you talk a bit about that and how that partnership worked?
Yeah, the funders, a couple of funders that we work with were really interested in looking at the impact. So they were not funding distribution, so to speak, but our ability to talk with viewers and understand the impact of the film. So they were really supportive. And we first started with qualitative interviews of people who had viewed the film, and then went on to do some quantitative research, basically randomizing viewers to fill out some information for us who had been randomized right after they saw the film, or that they hadn't seen the film yet. And I know the results would be juicy to report here. We are about to release those results, so I'll just give a thumbnail that we found really incredible results. People who were not only politically supportive of our issues, but folks who had kind of moderate or more conservative views on abortion still were very impacted by the film. So we couldn't have done that without the support of our funders.
Who were some of the funders?
So the Fledgling Fund, very proud to be supporting this, was our first funder who supported some of the early qualitative research. Packard came in to support some of the research where we went into more diverse West and Southern areas and spoke to folks with a very wide kind of political spectrum and different views on abortion. So happy to have both of them supporting.
Great. So last June, we did a case study with you guys about the impact to that point. So we're going to put the link into the chat so people can see that. So tell me about your button.
Thanks so much, Jessica. This is another piece that's really taken on a life of its own. So if any of you have a hard time reading it, it says Wicked Jezebel Feminist. And heard the protester, and I think we've covered this, but just to reiterate, this was not scripted. So the things that you hear, the things that you heard were not scripted, made up taunts, but they were actual real recorded audio of what women and their loved ones and the staff have to hear when they enter our health centers and health centers across the country that are not part of Planned Parenthood. So one of them said, you know, shouts at you, wicked Jezebel feminist, very intensively. And we thought, you know, that's really we really need to reclaim that language. That's a powerful, positive statement. And so it's taken on a life of its own. Lots of folks going on our acrossthelinevr.org to look for buttons and t-shirts and that kind of thing. But that's where this comes from. It's kind of a reclaiming of that intentionally ugly language and a reclaiming of it to a positive way.
Any advice for funders or advocates who might want to try virtual reality in their own work?
That's a great question. So advice for folks looking into using virtual reality, I think, and it's some folks that are greater experts than I have shared, you really have to ask yourself early on, as we did with our artist collaborators, what is gained by using the medium of virtual reality? Is it something that you could tell in a 2D environment, or is there something unique to the story you're trying to tell? When you are in the VR and across the line, you get a much more in the shoes sense of what it's like to have all of that hurled at you when you're trying to go get health care. And we felt that it was important to put people really in the shoes rather than having a more disconnected experience. So I think folks interested need to ask themselves that question of what does the medium of VR do for us, do for the viewer? Does it move the story along? For our story, it was incredibly impactful, and I'm thrilled that we went that way.
Anything you'd like to add, Molly?
Anything I'd like to add? Just see it, talk about it. So we're coming out soon with a discussion guide so that if folks, as they get more and more comfortable with the medium, want to have some simple Google Cardboards. This is not expensive. It works with your own phone, and watch with groups of friends, and a discussion guide to facilitate the discussion about the negative impact abortion stigma plays in our personal lives and in our country today. I would just encourage people to, watch it and talk about it.
Great. Thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So Margaux, thanks for being with us today. We're glad you could join us. You're one of the producers of Do Not Track. To give attendees an overview of the project, Do Not Track is a collection of personalized interactive episodes. Each addresses a different issue related to web privacy. Participating allows users to see how their own personal data is being tracked in real time. Take us back. Where did the idea for producing this project come from? Who specifically brought it to the table?
It's coming from Brett Gaylor. So Brett Gaylor used to work at iStill Film for a while in Montreal. So he used to be a documentary maker. And then he went to Mozilla, to the Mozilla Foundation, where he was really very aware of everything that was going on online, like everything that was going on with data privacy, with issues around this subject. And so he arrived in Paris in 2013, I would say, with this idea of making an interactive project that would show people data happens with all the tracking that we have idea of, and all of that Snowden way before even us were aware of the situation. He came here. We knew him from RIP, a Remix Manifesto, which was at IDFA in 2008, at the same time than Gaza Sderot. So Alexandre Brachet, the founder of Upion, met him there. And so when he came to Paris, he came quite naturally to see us with this project. And for us, it was a great opportunity for the first time to make something online that was actually talking about the internet.
So Margaux, privacy's been in the news lately here, with Congress voting to overturn regulations that would keep internet service providers from selling our data without our permission. How worried should we be about this issue?
Honestly, making Do Not Track made most of us more paranoid than we were before, I would say. One of the things that we were really into while doing it was to say, we're not saying it's good or it's bad. We're trying as much as possible to promote transparency, to say collecting data is not the wrong side of it. The wrong side of it is people not knowing what is collected about them, what is sold to everyone. But in the end, what you realize is that your power is really limited. You want to continue using services that are free and that are used by most of the people that you interact with. And so if you really want not to be tracked, it becomes a full-time job, basically. And so I think, and the problem that we have on our side, which is a little bit different from you, is that we are all our data from Europe are controlled by American companies who are ruled by American laws. So as soon as you change the law, we are all impacted in a way, because the service provider, the Google, the Facebook, the Netflix, the Amazons, they're all under American law. So I think it's quite worrying in a way. It's really not going in the right direction. The right direction would be ethical, dealing with data, explaining more to the users what they should understand before accepting, and giving a trade a possible way out in a way. You could, it would be interesting to see Facebook ask people if they want to pay, not for their data to be collected, or Google not for Google to collect all the history of your navigation. Would people pay for it or not? But until we have this choice, it's difficult to consider that it's not worrying.
So the project really brings that home, because it uses your own personal data in real time to show you what's being tracked. Let's actually watch the clip now. We've got a 1-minute clip. Let's show the participants how this works. But really, it's best experienced when you visit the site yourself.
Have you noticed the internet getting creepier? It used to feel like a fun, magical place, but these days, something feels off. It seems like a few companies are getting rich, and the rest of us get tracked. And the more things are targeted to us, the less equal we become. So a group of makers and public media folks got together to explore what is happening. From our mobile phones to social networks, from personalized advertising to big data. Every 2 weeks, we'll release a new personalized documentary with a different perspective. We want you to understand the value of your privacy, so we're going to ask you to let us track you. During each episode of Do Not Track, you'll be able to use your own data to understand how information about you is used by others. We'll give you more knowledge, so you'll have more power. Let's track the trackers together.
So yeah, it's a little scary. You launched this project in April 2015. Can you give us a sense of where it's been, its reception, and whether there are future plans for it 2 years later?
So one particular aspect of the project that was really important to us is the international dimension. So first of all, Brett Gaylor, who is the author, came to us. He's coming from the English-speaking part of Canada. So this project was kind of interestingly international from the beginning. And it was really interesting for us to see that our relationship to privacy, for example, was very different from one country to the other. So in the end, we had Canada, the US, Germany, France, and participants from Switzerland involved in it. And so, for example, it was really interesting to see that there were first an American, like in the large sense of the term, Canada and the US included, vision of privacy, a European vision of privacy, and then a German vision that was even different from the French one. So the reception was based also on the sensitivity of countries towards this topic. So in Germany, it was a huge success, partly because it's a very important topic for Germans, and partly because the distribution made by our partner there, which was the BR, regional broadcaster, was really important in terms of visibility in different shows, online, on TV, on radio, etc. So for us, it was a very, very big success. So the idea is that each episode is the start of a conversation. Our idea was not to say, here is a 7-minute video and just deal with it. It was a way of like introducing a very complex topic to people. So the 7-minute video are kind of funny, easy to understand. And then you have what we call the conversation, which is first of all, a list of links that were gathered by the team, linked to the topic of each episode that allowed you to dig deeper into any subject. And then there were email relationship with the audience during the live period that was 3 months long. That was meant for us to ask the audience questions. First of all, to gather data and to be able to enrich the episodes along the way, but also to give them some news around the topic in the different countries, because it happened that at this particular time, there were laws being passed in France, in Canada around the topic. So informing the audience on the news and by giving them also tools to understand what was going on. So it's been live for the past year. We're in May, right? Yeah, so it was, no, 2015. It's been 2 years. So it's still live, it's still online. It's not the live period in the way that you cannot give your email address, you cannot receive any questions. We're not like updating the live part of it, but the website is still accessible. The idea is that it stays as long as possible, so it's still gather people. Like recently, there was a very big share of people coming from Russia, because a guy made a video on YouTube, a very famous Russian guy made a video on YouTube mentioning Do Not Track. So we had like 100,000 people coming from Russia to know about data collection, which was quite funny for us. So I think it's still relevant. There are no real plan for us to do anything more with it. But what's interesting is that we have been, for example, asked by the European Commission to come to talk about that particular project when they were talking about legislation around data privacy, data collection, what they should do. So we were at the same table than Google and Apple, like giving our opinion based on Do Not Track.
Yeah, well, we captured some of the project's outcomes last year when we did a case study for the Media Impact Festival. So if people are interested in taking a look at what's happening up to last June, we'll put the URL into the chat. But it's interesting to hear how it still has this online life. One of the complicated things about producing an interactive project is that it's really dependent on the platforms that you use to distribute it. So given that, and some of the other sort of complications that you've encountered, do you have any advice for makers and funders who might want to use interactive documentary for social issues?
What's very difficult from our perspective as a producer is when you work on a project like Do Not Track, you work on it for 3 years. In 3 years, the web has completely changed. I mean, I think we would definitely not make exactly the same project today. And one of the things that we're most concerned with, I would say, is what we call in French the platformization. Like the internet is becoming YouTube and Facebook in a way. And so first of all, we're making like formats that should be able to welcome every topic, which I'm not sure of. And also we're giving more and more power to these particular actors by giving them all the audience in a way. So Do Not Track is in a particular situation because we created a player from scratch that was building video with data that you would give in with information that it would go and gather online. So it's a problem because everybody thinks it's a video, and so people send us emails saying, why isn't it on YouTube? And you're like, because it's not a video, it's like built in real time, so sometimes it doesn't work. So people send emails saying, why doesn't it work? YouTube works perfectly at my home, so it should be working because it's video. Nice. So I think one very good thing is that interactivity is like spreading everywhere. Like we work on Snapchat, for example. We work for L'Équipe, for a very big sports newspaper in France, on Discover, so making the daily edition of the sport newspaper on Snapchat. And everything is digital, everything is interactive. The audiences are great. The relationship that it creates between content, new way of writing, new way of interacting is really interesting. The problem is that Snapchat owns the people that you address. So the big question is, how do you manage to bring an audience on an interactive project without playing the game or even paying these platforms? Because you can hope for YouTube, for linear video, to like spread the benefit with you, even if you will never really know how much you've made. They will say that's the amount that you can have for this month. But Facebook, you have to pay them to reach your audience. So you're not even in a revenue sharing model. So we're really in this moment, which is, I guess, even in France, where public service has invested and is investing more maybe than in other countries on those new platforms, whether they're linear, interactive, or from scratch. So for the advice, I'm not sure I'm going to be very helpful, but I think it's a moment where we need to continue fighting and to try and use what the web is great for, which is having a direct relationship with your audience.
For the US audience, could you tell us a little bit more about your organization and where you sit in it?
You're talking about Do Not Track, right? Not in general, or in general?
No, in general. Like the partnership, Do Not Track had a lot of partners. So tell us which organization you are working from and what it does.
So on Do Not Track, we had a partnership with, not like a contract, I would say, with AG Plus in the US. Mm-hmm. So it was a specific situation compared to the other countries that we were working with. First of all, because it was not public service, but also because it was mobile-based, and the project was more web-based, because most of the things that we would ask the users to do wouldn't work on a mobile at the time when we developed. I think now it would be working, but at this time, Apple was really complicated with interactive video. It was autoplayer, so you couldn't do anything with it. And so the first episode, one of the specificities of Do Not Track is that it's localized. So the first episode will be different depending on where you watch it. If you're in France, if you're detected as being in France, the person welcoming you to the first episode is going to speak in French, is going to be a French journalist relevant to this topic. If you arrive in Canada, it's Brett Gaylor who is going to be welcoming you. If you go in Germany, it's going to be Richard Gauthier. And all of these people are going to be hosting one of the other episodes. So if you're in Germany, first and third episode will be a German character. If you're in France, first and second episode will be a French character. And so AG Plus entered into the project by adding somebody from their crew as a host for the American audience on the mobile. So it was really interesting for us to see how a weird project, like huge project like that, could be integrated in AG Plus. So the two interesting things we had for them was this first episode where one of their star hosts could be a character of it, and then an episode that was specifically about mobile, that was developed for mobile devices. So they bought the exploitation rights of these two episodes on their territory. So we recreated in a way what's going on in documentary, where you spread the territories, but everybody was sharing the worldwide non-exclusivity of it, but addressing specific audience on specific places.
Huh. I didn't realize that, because I've only experienced it in North America.
Yeah.
So
nobody knows it until you show the different ways.
So what I meant is, what's your home organization? Is it Arte? Is it what? Yeah.
Our Upion, the company, is an independent producer.
Okay.
So we produce. We have two main jobs: production on one side, mainly for the internet, mainly documentary. It can be interactive, it can be linear, and we're a web agency. So we work for a lot of medias. Where we do interfaces, we create content, we work on social medias and stuff like that. And so for each project, we find the right partners in order to finance it, in order to broadcast it, in order to co-produce it, to find the audience, and to find the money to be able to do it.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks for clarifying. I just wasn't sure. Is there anything that you want to add?
For us, it was one very important project where the formats and the content were really, really well integrated one to the other. Like, I think the impact that it has on people, even now when we show it, like in conferences or in debates, is so powerful because it's not abstract. And I think to make people understand big issues, big social issues, having social impact, is really necessary to have this like coherence between what you want to say and the way you say it. And I think that it's a very important time to be able to use all the tools that we have to be able to do that as good as we can. For people to understand very complicated issues that can be treated in 1 minute with video without sound on Facebook.
Right. Okay, great.